I told you to stop serving him. Are you trying to get us grounded?
I know what I am doing. Back off.
You know, sometimes life hands you a situation so utterly unbelievable, so steeped in that specific brand of petty, small-town drama, except it happened 30,000 feet in the air, that you almost have no choice but to laugh, years later. But trust me, there was nothing funny about it then, absolutely nothing at all. This is the story of the time a flight attendant tried to have me, a black woman holding a 6-month-old baby, dragged off a first-class flight because she didn't know my husband practically owned the entire damn airline. It all started so peacefully, which is how the worst stories always begin, right? It was a Tuesday morning, bright and early, and I was flying from O'Hare to Atlanta. Let's call the airline Etheria Air, and the flight was 909, and I was finally on my way to close a massive deal for the firm, but this time I was traveling undercover, you could say, and not for the reason you think. See, my name is Celeste Dubois, I'm 34, and my husband, Marcus Thorne, is one of the founding partners and the current CEO of Thorne Aerospace, which had just completed a massive merger with Etheria Air. For years, I'd been whisked through corporate travel with personal security and the whole 9 yards, but after having our daughter, Nova, I just wanted one simple, ordinary trip, just me, my baby, and a first-class ticket, so I dressed down, no flashy logos, just a simple cream cashmere sweater and some comfortable, tailored trousers, my hair neatly tucked into a bun, trying to look like, well, just another mom on a business trip. Nova, bless her heart, was 6 months old, wearing the most adorable little elephant onesie, and this was her very first time flying. Everything was smooth until we hit the tarmac and the cabin pressure started doing its thing, and Nova's tiny ears started hurting. She wasn't screaming, she was doing that high-pitched, whiny, "I'm a baby and I'm confused" cry, which, if you're a parent, you know is just the soundtrack to life. We were in seat 2C, and I was gently bouncing her, whispering that familiar, "It's okay, Mama's here," when this shadow fell over me. That shadow belonged to Vivian Chalmers, the senior flight attendant. Vivian was a woman who clearly believed the silver wings pinned to her navy blazer were the equivalent of a General Star's. She was maybe 45, perfectly coiffed, with that tight, almost aggressive smile that meant business was about to go sideways. "Madam," she clipped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass, "I need you to control that child immediately. We have high-paying clientele in this cabin who expect peace and quiet. This is first class, not a nursery." I looked up, trying to keep my voice low and calm. "I apologize, but we're experiencing some ear pressure issues. I'm working on it, but she's just a baby, And that's when the mask completely dropped. "A baby," Vivian scoffed, her eyes raking over my understated outfit. "In my first-class cabin? I don't care what scam you pulled or which broke boyfriend bought you this ticket, but you will follow the rules on my aircraft." The sheer audacity of it, the assumption, the judgment, it hit me hard. Years of being the only black woman in countless corporate boardrooms had trained me to swallow that kind of slight, to stay professional, but this time, I was holding my daughter, and that felt different, visceral. I looked down at Nova, who was still whimpering, and then back at Vivian. "Excuse me," I said quietly, adjusting Nova's blanket, my hand shaking just a tiny bit. "My ticket is seat 2C, paid in full. I am Mrs. C. Dubois." "I don't care about your little Mrs. status, honey," she sneered, leaning in close, and that's when it happened. The slap. It wasn't a Hollywood punch, but a sharp, stinging crack of flesh meeting flesh, her open palm against my cheek. The sound echoed in the pre-departure silence of the cabin. Nova's cries went from whimpers to full, terrified screams. My cheek burned, and for a split second, I saw red, true, blinding rage. But then, I looked at Nova, her tiny face crumpled in fear, and the years of executive training kicked in. Never show weakness, never give them the reaction they expect. I adjusted Nova, holding her tight, and simply stared at Vivian, my eyes steady, my jaw locked. Around me, phones came out. I heard the clicks and the whispers. An elderly woman across the aisle, dripping in pearls, nodded approvingly at Vivian. "Finally," she murmured to her seatmate, "someone putting these entitled people in their place." The narrative was set, right there in the cabin. The hero flight attendant maintaining standards against the disruptive, low-class mother. And Vivian, clearly energized by the audience and the sheer power trip, played it up. "Ladies and gentlemen," she announced, practically projecting, "I apologize for the disruption. Some people simply do not understand appropriate travel etiquette, even when sitting where they clearly don't belong." I just sat there, quiet, steadying Nova with a soft bounce, my boarding pass with the ignored Platinum Elite code resting visibly on my lap. I was fighting every instinct to scream the truth, to show them the text messages I was getting, urgent calls from Marcus's chief of staff. I was waiting. I was forcing them to commit fully. Vivian pulled out her radio. "Captain Reyes, we have a code yellow in first class. Disruptive passenger with infant refusing to comply. I recommend immediate removal before departure." The captain's voice crackled back. "Copy that, Vivian. Proceed as necessary." Across the aisle, Sophia, the young college girl, was live-streaming everything on TikTok, and I could hear her nervous whispers. "Y'all, this is insane. The flight attendant just slapped her. I can't even." Her view count was already climbing past 5,000. I took a deep breath. I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I am asking you, for the second time, to please verify my passenger status before you take irreversible action." Vivian let out a short, harsh laugh. "Irreversible? Honey, the only thing irreversible is your tantrum delaying this flight. You think your little platinum code means something to me? I know every trick in the book. Now, get your things, or I call federal marshals." I glanced at my phone. 10 minutes until mandatory pushback. And the text underneath. "Marcus is calling HQ now. Get ready." The humiliation felt like a physical weight, pressing me down. Every sneer, every judging look, every supportive nod towards Vivian landed like a tiny knife. But deep inside, the warrior that had built my own multimillion-dollar business was refusing to buckle. This wasn't just about me and my baby anymore. This was about every mother, every person who'd ever been judged the second they walked into a space they were deemed unworthy of. I kept thinking, let them escalate. Let them show the world exactly what they are. Then, the true escalation came. James Whitfield, the investment banker behind me, monogrammed cuffs and the whole entitled package, leaned forward. "Miss," he huffed, checking his Rolex for the 10th time. "Some of us have actual important business. You're holding up 150 people with this theater. Get off the plane." His words, and the many nods of agreement they drew, sealed my decision. I reached into my bag for a fresh bottle for Nova, and I deliberately let the light catch the corner of my Thorn Aerospace Executive Platinum card, a card Vivian would never, ever recognize as an employee status card, but it looked just different enough from a normal flyer card to catch the eye. I tucked it away quickly, but not before I saw Vivian's eyes narrow. "Who are you calling?" she demanded, spotting the caller ID flash. "Thorn Aerospace Executive Office. Your baby daddy isn't going to save you from federal regulations." The cabin chuckled, and the sound felt like acid. I checked my watch, a simple black timepiece that looked unassuming unless you saw the engraving on the back. To my brilliant wife, Dr. Celeste Dubois. Vivian pulled her radio out one last time. "Captain, I am requesting immediate security and ground security assistance. The passenger is non-compliant. We need forcible removal." Captain Reyes' voice was firm. "Copy. Ground security boarding now." Through the windows, I could see the flashing lights. This was it. The point of no return. The cabin went absolutely silent as the security team boarded. Two burly men in black, accompanied by Air Marshal Elena, who looked deeply uncomfortable. This wasn't a code yellow anymore. This was a potential federal incident over a baby who was now, ironically, mostly quiet, looking up at the commotion with wide, curious eyes. The lead security officer addressed me, his voice professional but strained. "You need to gather your belongings and come with us voluntarily." "I need exactly 2 more minutes," I said, quiet but firm, still cradling Nova. "You need 0 minutes." Captain Reyes barked over the intercom. "This is a federal aircraft under my command. Remove her now." Vivian stepped forward, triumphant, her face flushed with power. "This is exactly why we have security protocols. Some people think they can manipulate." "That's a lie." I cut her off, my voice steady, meeting her gaze directly. "You slapped me, Ms. Chalmers, while I was holding my child. You accused me of stealing my ticket. And you are now willing to have me forcibly removed without even verifying my identity." The power of that truth, spoken so calmly, made a few passengers shift uncomfortably. Even James Whitfield lowered his phone slightly. Air Marshal Elena, God bless her, hesitated. "Captain," she called out, "standard protocol requires verification before physical removal." Has the ticket status been run through the system? Marshal Martinez, Reyes snapped. I appreciate your concern, but my senior crew assessment is sufficient. Proceed with the removal. Vivian gave Elena a dismissive glare, then turned back to me. I don't need your advice. I know who belongs in my cabin. That was the line. The perfect, arrogant, damning line. Just as the security officers reached out to place their hands on me, the cabin door opened again, and a panicked man, the gate supervisor, Mr. Dennis, stumbled into first class, tablet shaking in his hand. Captain Reyes. Dennis yelled, breathless. Stop. We have an urgent, code-red communication from corporate HQ regarding Seat 2C. Vivian whirled on him. Get out of here, Dennis. We are in the middle of a federal issue. You don't have authority. Actually, I do, I said softly, my voice cutting through the panic. I reached for my persistently ringing phone, looked at the caller ID, Thorn Aerospace CEO line, and pressed the speaker button. This is Celeste Dubois, I announced clearly, my voice carrying over the silence. The voice that answered was deep, commanding, and laced with barely contained fury. Celeste. Thank God. Are you and Nova safe? Physically, yes, Dom, I replied, a tear finally escaping. But I've been slapped, called a thief, and accused of stealing my ticket, and they're about to drag me off your plane. The word Dom, my husband, Marcus Thorne, rang through the cabin. A gasp rippled through the passengers. James Whitfield's face went completely white. Sophia's livestream exploded past 50,000 viewers. Put me on speaker, Marcus's voice commanded, now amplified and utterly terrifying in its calm. I want everyone on that aircraft to hear this. He didn't waste a second. Captain Richard Reyes. Who is the flight attendant who physically assaulted my wife? Reyes stammered. Sir, there was a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? Marcus's voice was pure steel. I am watching a live video feed, Captain. I am watching the video of my wife being slapped while holding our daughter. I am seeing a flight attendant make racist assumptions about her appearance and parentage. He didn't give Reyes a chance to speak. Captain Reyes, your suspension is effective immediately. You are grounded until a full federal investigation is complete. You chose to back bigotry over protocol. Your command is over. The cabin was stone silent. Reyes looked like he'd been punched. Vivian Chalmers, Marcus continued, his voice softer, deadlier. You are terminated, effective immediately. You will remain on that aircraft until federal officers arrive to take your statement regarding felony assault and racial discrimination charges. You also lied to federal officers claiming she assaulted you. Good luck with that. Vivian crumpled against the galley wall, all her composure shattered. I looked at her, and then at James Whitfield, the arrogant banker, who was frantically pretending to delete texts. I adjusted Nova, who was now sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of the corporate earthquake she'd just survived. Marcus's voice softened slightly for me. Celeste, my love, I'm sending the corporate jet. Please come home. No, Dom, I replied, shaking my head, my voice firm. I'm staying right here, in the seat I purchased. This isn't just about me anymore. This is about what happens to the next black mother who doesn't have a CEO in her corner. My words landed like the final gavel. The scene that followed was cinematic satisfaction. Reyes and Vivian were led off the plane by federal marshals. The new crew boarded, treating me with an almost absurd level of deference. The elderly woman in pearls leaned over, her voice trembling. Mrs. Dubois, I owe you a sincere apology. I judged you, based on your clothes, your color. I was horribly wrong. I accept your apology, Mrs. Thornton, I replied, giving her a quiet nod. But please, remember this feeling the next time you decide who belongs where. We finally pushed back 90 minutes late, but as we taxied, I saw the breaking news alerts flashing on every passenger's phone. Etheria air stock plummets 8% following viral discrimination incident. It was over, but the work had just begun. That day, I wasn't just Celeste Dubois, mother and wife. I became the catalyst. Marcus and I didn't just fire a couple of people. We established the Dubois protocol, rewriting training on assumed bias and mandatory verification across the entire corporation. It cost us a fortune and a mountain of PR headaches, but we had the power to make sure no one else would ever have to choose between enduring humiliation and exposing injustice. So, that's the story of the flight attendant who messed with the wrong mama. What started as a cheap power trip ended with an entire industry changing its training because one woman chose not to stay silent. Now, I want to know what you think. If you were sitting in that cabin, watching a woman of color being slapped and humiliated, would you have spoken up before you knew who her husband was? Where does the line between following protocol and blatant, ingrained bias truly lie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and share this video, because change only happens when we stop being silent witnesses.